we're going to actually look at video, and we're going to look at what people are doing. He's going to talk about how we can implement some things in our own running form, how to identify fluidity, how to think about ourselves as better athletes. And super excited to hear what he has to say. Mitch, take it over, man.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Thanks everyone for joining. I see some familiar names. I'm excited to get chatting. If you guys have any questions about anything I say, please just ask in the chat so I can address it. Yeah, and what we're gonna be looking on today is how are different people running utilizing the same techniques throughout different distances. So everything from the 400-meter all the way to a marathoner's long slow run. Okay, and what I think you find is there are obviously differences, but there's certain similarities that transfer throughout the entire spectrum of running. And what we're really talking about is coming down to, like, are things timed correctly? Okay, the way I see it, Jay and I were mentioning this before, the way I see it, there is no running form. If you look at a group of marathoners or any large group running, what you'll see is most people, there's probably within a group of 10 people, there's probably like 8 different forms there. Okay, so we're not trying to like make ourselves a shape, fit ourselves in a box. What we're trying to do is find the best way for us to move the most fluidly. Okay, and what the most fluid movement looks like is there's no hitches, no jerky movements, no mental or physical sort of like blocks. Mental blocks coming from like whether it's a lack of strength or it's a previous injury, and physical blocks coming from just the inability to get in a certain position or produce force from a certain position. All right. So what I look for mainly is it fluid? Because I have different anatomy than someone else has, different limb length, different past experiences, and this all translates into like how you move while you're running. Okay. So just as a broad statement, what we're looking for, the main things that I look for when we run in regards to fluidity are not what your arms look like, but how is the timing of your arm swing and where is it coming from? Okay. Not what your ground contact looks like, but how good are you at absorbing and releasing the ground? Again, this is a timing thing. Same with your arms. What kind of rotational forces are you good at fighting during your running? Or are you succumbing to slack in the upper trunk, right? Really, slack anywhere in the body creates a mistiming, okay? When we talk about mistimings at a muscular level, a mistiming creates vibration in the muscles, all right? When you have a mistiming, even just when you land and you're not good at absorbing, if you jump and land on the ground really hard, the mistiming in your landing creates all your muscles to go through this. And that makes all your tendons go like this. And now all of a sudden we're seeing like sort of lateral valgus forces through tendons and entire systems that are not the most efficient or the most fluid way of moving. Okay, so what we're looking for is control. Can you control torso rotation? Can you control shoulder, like shoulder slack, where it's up and down, or it's sort of falling forward, which is a huge indicator of someone like not just having the weakness, but if your right shoulder falls forward, that to me means that I bet you this person has had injuries on their left side, specifically left lower leg. Like there's certain things that are so easy to pinpoint because of certain areas of the body that have slack in them cause slack and vibration and mistiming in other areas of the body that it's not 100%, but you can sort of guess at where this person is having issue. But again, it's all coming to timing. All right. So I just want to talk about, I think the initial thing to talk about is arms. Okay. Because everyone's been told 1,000 things about arms. Okay. So Jay, if you pull up that first, the first clip of Femke Bol running. Okay. So we got Femke Bol, 400 meter, just absolute star. Her gait is just so on point. And one of the reasons for that, I believe, is her arm action. Okay. So this is just keep it on pause for a second here, Jack. So this arm action, I don't want to say it's new to track and field sprinting, but in the last 5 years, maybe less than that, maybe 3 years, I've seen a lot of arm action that seems like a new type. It's a new movement pattern in hands and arms at the highest level of sprinting, okay, versus what I was taught when I was a kid, or when I was taught when I was just in sport, or even what is the standard teaching method now at recreational level or any level, really. Okay. And what that is not necessarily looking for the biggest pump of the arms, not necessarily cueing it even from the shoulder. All right. What I've seen recently, we look at Abby Steiner, Letsili Tobogo, Femke Bol right here, and you'll see when someone has it, their training partners actually pick it up. Okay. And what that looks like is much more of an elbow driven verticality of the hands, more so than a full extension back. When I used to run, I used to reach back, okay, which is not bad. I'm just saying what I've seen recently is an evolution of how the best runners are running. And it's more of an elbow-driven hand verticality than it is about a full arm swing. And you'll see that as I talk through it here. Go ahead and play this. We're just going to watch this for like 10 seconds because
This session focuses on maximum speed, comprising 3 by 70 meters sprints with 9 to 10 minutes of rest, followed by 4 by 60 meters at 90% to 95% intensity with 2 minutes of rest.
Right there, Jay.
The session combines elements of maximum speed.
And this is a perfect time to stop. When Jay presses play, I want you guys to all watch this. When Femke Bol is pushing off the ground, what you'll see is that she is flinging herself forward with her arms. And there's a cue that I give a lot to runners of any distance, okay? And that is the cue of skipping like a child. When you're skipping like a child, what you see when you look at any child skip is they're actually not, forget about the lower legs. They're actually lifting their body with their arms. Their arms are timed to the absorption of the ground down, and they're timed to the lifting of the body by creating verticality in the hands, okay? So obviously that's an exaggerated way of looking at it. But when we break that down into what that looks like running, it looks like this. Can you create, or are you creating lift with the weight of your hand? Okay. The way I was taught to think about arms is, do you pump from the shoulder? Wherever they tell you to go here, there's a lot of different thoughts. I've been told a lot of things. It's keep it straight and it's pump from the shoulder. And I think recently has been very, for me, it's been very enlightening to see kind of more of an elbow-driven verticality of the hand where you're actually creating lift by throwing the hand up, and skipping like a child and learning that rhythm is the best way for me to teach you that. So Jay, will you play this right now? I just want you guys to watch how she actually accelerates
speed
her body
endurance
forward.
work. On Wednesday morning, she does
And
speed
up with her
endurance
hand.
or race pace.
That hand,
This session incorporates flying from 80 to 150 meters.
This is the weight. It's like if you held a 2.5 pound dumbbell in your hand, okay? The hand is the weight. When we get lost in this is the way something should look, or this is the way you should pump your arms, what you lose is the fact that arms are not supposed to pump anyway. They're supposed to give you lift, and they're supposed to help you disperse energy through the ground and out the back so that you don't go straight into the ground, okay? So it's not what it looks like, it's what it does. What it does is create lift. And how that happens is the timing has to be there. So when you look at someone doing Olympic lifts, or even a snatch with a dumbbell or something, okay, what you're looking for, or even a kettlebell swing, what those people are doing is creating verticality of that weight by creating an explosive movement where that weight is weightless at some point. Okay, even a kettlebell swing, the weight is weightless because your hip flick through. It's created this slingshot, this weight, and the weight is not, you're not driving it up, it is just flying up. Same thing with a snatch, same thing with a clean and jerk. The weight is flying up because of acceleration, and then you're dropping under. Okay, the same thing with the arms. The arms, you need to create the weightlessness by driving that arm forward and upwards. And I believe that more so than what the arms look like or what the cue is, all this stuff, what we're talking about is timing. If you don't practice the timing, whether it's jump rope, plyometrics, skipping, the timing of just a jump, or the timing of a landing, if you don't practice a timing, it's not about your muscles won't build in a certain way. It's your body has no reference to a point in time within that muscle memory for you to sort of look upon and say, this is how it should feel when I'm doing it right, when the rhythm is correct. Your rhythm when you jump one time is very different than when you jump 2 times in a row. Okay, the second time, plyometrics only start on the second rep, because it is a contract, relax cycle. Okay, we have to be in that position all the time to absorb the ground and release it correctly. And what we're looking at that again is timing. Jay, if you can go to that long run, the Ugandan team doing a long run, what we're going to see here is the timing and what the rhythm looks like with a group of guys running together. Okay, now this is a super easy run. I think they're going here.
Introducing the hide and seek from Bellroy, a traditional wallet on the outside. It hides a few tricks on.
Athletes here do generally tend to do that. Okay. So on the days where perhaps after a harder workout, like on this occasion where they've done Tuesday track and they're now doing the easy run, want to maintain a slower pace and just run and feel how you're feeling. The other thing I found is that the coaches here will tend to tell the athlete the pace not to run quicker than, so that they have about sort of 4-minute kilometer pace to try and keep under that. So again, a way of being able to keep in check that you're not pushing too hard on.
You'll notice when you get in some of the African runners, their arms are more right here, okay? But what we're looking at here is this is a result of different limb lengths between African descent and European descent, okay? But it's the same thing. So the weight distribution is different, the center of mass is different, and all that. But it's the same thing. Whether you're pumping from here and lifting your body, or you're pumping like Ryan Hall used to do, way down at the hip and lifting your body up. Doesn't matter which one you're doing. What we're looking at is, do you have good timing of verticality of the hands? Is the hand the weight that you are throwing up and forward? So if you guys have any questions on that arm action, or Jay, if you have anything now, speak up and we can address that. And then once we're done with that, we can move on to sort of the next segment.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? I'm on the chat right now. We'll just take a minute. Yeah, sorry about the audio with the videos when the video's playing. I'm not quite sure how to turn that audio off, but we'll try just not to talk while the videos are playing.
Yeah. So, and what I was saying at that last video there, if you guys didn't hear me, just with that group of the Ugandan runners running, is that their arms are creating the lift. Their arms are all rhythmically timed with the lift of their body and their push off, so that they can create, so that running is not a legs movement. Running is an everything movement. It is all your body. It is one of the most complex things your body can do. We can't be compartmentalizing and saying, okay, well, I need to run with my legs, but the form is with I need to use my arms. What we need to feel is how do we, when we skip like a child, how do we figure out the timing of the arms? I think skipping like a child is the easiest way to do that.
So Mitch, we got a couple questions about what are some actionable things that we can do to cue ourselves to create this arm lift?
Before you run, you need to skip. I'm not talking about, so here's the thing. When we say do drills, do skip, there's 100 different skips, and they can end up looking like a dance, and that's cool. Whatever needs to be done. The basis of skipping drills is this: to find timing before you run. Okay? It's not about doing the drill to do the drill. The drill is the workout. The reason why there's so many skipping drills, there's skipping, there's A skips, B skips, whatever you want, right? But what we're talking about is, can you find the timing before you run? So I don't mind what skip you have. It can be, I think, just as good as A skips or B skips is just skip like a kid. And what you'll find is that it's very easy to, once you become sort of like self-analyzing, it's very easy to figure out, okay, when I land, I don't know how to land when I'm skipping, right? What am I doing why can't I land when I'm skipping? Am I holding my arms like this? Am I not like absorbing the ground? I can't get as high as I want to when I skip, or I'm not fluid getting off the ground. Well, if your arms are stuck, you're not going to be fluid getting off the ground. If your arms are stuck, you're not going to be able to get as high as you want off the ground. So when you're skipping like a child, which I think is the #1 thing we should do before we run, you can find the rhythm of absorbing and releasing the ground and creating lift with your arms, and absorption and disbursement of the force when you land from a skip comes from the downward motion of your arms. If you're ripping it down a trail, let's say you're on a steep sort of technical trail in the mountains and you're running down, okay? Your arms go up. When you land, when you drop off something, you go up, okay? Your arms help you kind of take some weight off your legs. And then when you want to spring, your arms have to be ready. You have to go up. And when you drop down something, your body absorbs by taking weight off. The same thing happens if you're in the air from a skip. What you'll find is you actually controlling this hand down actually disperses the weight and allows you to gives you the time to land in a controlled way, not just landing like this. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. It doesn't matter what skip it is. The basis of all skipping drills is skip like a kid.
Okay, a couple more questions.
Yeah.
So one is from Daniel. He wants to know, how do I choose the hand position that's best for me, high or low, or is it a comfort thing? And then the second question, I'll go ahead and feed you. You can answer both of them. Do you feel being more natural is better than putting yourself in a specific position, like when squatting or cleaning?
Mm-hmm. So Daniel, that first question was, the best thing you can do to feel a natural rhythm, like I've said, is to skip. There's no better indication there's no better thing that transfers to running, finding a natural fluid rhythm other than skipping. It's not about what it looks like. It's not about what the form is. It's not about be in the box of the running form. That to me doesn't exist. What I want you to feel is, does it feel smooth? Does it feel sharp? If it feels sharp, that's a mistiming. Does it feel smooth? Does it feel sharp? Does it feel like you are doing more with less? That's how to find the best rhythm for your body. And your body might feel it differently by doing something. Jay was just telling me how he has a cue that he figured out that he really enjoys that helps him find rhythm. In the end, my job is to help you find your best timing, your most fluid rhythm you could possibly find, because it doesn't matter what it looks like. If it doesn't matter if it's in a textbook or you've been told by your favorite person, whatever it is, do you feel like there's sharp impact happening through the ground? Do you know that there's positions you don't want to be in or that you're scared to get in? Do you know that you're limiting yourself mentally and physically based on previous injury or whatever it is? Can you get over those hurdles by practicing a fluid skip? Okay. And that to me would be the best way to easily transition that timing and the fluid timing to your running. Okay. On the other side of the beginning of the question being, is there a form or is the most natural thing the way? Okay. I had an answer until you added clean and jerks and all that stuff in, right? There's a base form for everything. Form. Okay. There's a base form for everything, but everyone is around that form. No one's in the middle of that form. Okay. So like a guy like Kelly Starrett, who's like this amazing guy. He's wealth of knowledge. He's kind of the first one to communicate body maintenance and all this stuff to non-elite athletes. All right. He thinks that feet should be straight all the time. That's his thing. And that's to load up the legs. I disagree. But the cueing of feet straight makes you very strong in a lot of ways. But if you're squatting, there's none of the best Olympic lifters squat or catch a clean with their feet straight. Okay. So you got to think about this. Like Jay and I were actually talking about this earlier. If you get a cue, you got to think, okay, this cue is not the way to do the thing. The way I give cues, I give you a cue so that you feel something internally, rhythm, timing, all that stuff. When you feel it internally, you take a second to lock it into your muscle memory, just as you would read a book and study, and you would say the sentence, and then you would think about it for a second, and then you would go on to it, or you memorizing whatever it is, right? Just as you do that, you could do that with physical movements. All right. So when you feel something, I've got you to feel with a cue. Now the cue becomes kind of secondary. The feeling becomes first. What we have to think about is like, okay, well, now we have that feeling. We're not going to hold on to that feeling forever. You're going to have the feeling and you're going to feel great. And then you're going to lose it. And then what the important part is, like, you have to have the feeling to know when you lose it, and you have to have the feeling to know how you can get it back, because it's not linear. It's not, I have this is me now. Okay. It's this lost in the course of a marathon. You might lose the feeling 10 times. All right. But you have to know, okay, I lost it. What is the thing? What am I trying to feel here? And then you go to get the feeling. So if you're cleaning or you're doing some lift, like a complex lift, there's a lot of ways to do it, but you always got to think initially as a recreational athlete. There's people that, there's lightweights that power clean 400 pounds. If you're power cleaning 100 pounds, maybe you should look into some form stuff. If you're power cleaning 250 pounds, the way that you feel best translates to whatever else you want to do, then I think there's maybe some tweaks, but I think you're good otherwise, right? So you got to look at like, okay, well, if I'm cleaning, what are other people doing when they clean physically? But also, am I in a good spot to say like, okay, I'm cleaning a good amount. I don't necessarily want to be the best cleaner. I want to be the best. I want the cleans to transfer to my running the best. If you're doing 250, you're in that good zone. If you can't even do 100 pounds, there's probably a lot you could learn from the way people move and the form when people are cleaning. So I hope that makes sense.
Okay, follow-up question. How much time should we be skipping before we run?
You got to lock it in. Whatever it takes to lock in. Some people, when they read a line, they can take a second, lock it in. If you have good muscle memory, if you have good kinesthetic awareness, you could skip for 10 seconds and lock it in. But maybe it's a couple skips. Like when I was running track, as a sprinter, your workout is maybe 20 minutes, maybe but the drills before it are like an hour and a half. The drills are the workout. It can't be separated, okay? When you're doing it, you can't say, okay, I got to do these drills and I got to do my workout. What you have to say is, these drills are going to allow me to do this workout the best. These are part of the workout, part of the learning process. Any movement you're doing, even cross training, it needs to be done with intention to where you feel something positive that you can lock into your muscle memory. Once that's locked in, you need to constantly search for it through gaining it and losing it. Okay. I think a lot of us take for granted, like, oh, I did this thing, I'm going to get stronger, when that takes a long time. What doesn't take a long time is doing the thing that you feel super strong right after you doing, and stepping away from it and saying, okay, why did that make me feel really strong? And if you can put a name on it and put a feeling on it, stay there and think about, like, feel that feeling. Take a step away to, like, really internalize, why does this squat make me feel really good when I walk around right after the squat? Like, what is it? Why can I do this one little hip hinge and then all of a sudden I feel like I could sprint as fast as I could? We got to think about, you got to take a step away from whether it's a run or a lift or a form cue, and gather the feeling and internalize that feeling so that you can call upon it another day or the next time.
Hey, one thing, Francisco, that it's so funny, Mitchell, you're talking about skipping and creating lift, because in our conversation earlier, like, that's actually matching with that form cue that we were talking about. Like, that's what it is creating. So it's nice to be able to connect those two. And Francisco, one thing that I've done for years is, especially when I start a workout, I actually usually start it with a couple skip steps, like the interval, like a little bit of a, like, prime to get moving, instead of starting from, like, the dead stop. It's almost like the beginning of a running, like a fly, like a 30-meter fly.
Yeah.
So that's one that you could definitely try as, like, a short primer. But love that answer, Mitch. That was amazing. Any other questions on that? Just hit them in the chat. And then, Mitch, do you want to hit another video?
Yeah. So go to let's go to the men's mile video that I sent you. So what we're talking about here, and just hold off on it for a second. What we're talking about here, guys, we're going to talk about the lower leg angles. Okay. There's a lot of the most common thing that I see from recreational athletes that I can correct is they've fallen into a trap.
Picking teams is impossible.
I didn't mind using AI. I'll show you.
1 second, sorry.
I can't.
They're shooting a straight, yeah, that's fine. They're shooting a straight leg out in front of them, okay? And that straight leg, I think people do it for a number of reasons. I think people do it because they want to look a certain way when they run. I think that's a huge portion. Like, there's always a certain level of ego with everyone, right, on the scale. And I think certainly sometimes we want to look like the best people in the world that we watch run. And what they look like is nice. They look springy and they got this air time, it looks like, right? But when I see it, I see a forced, what I call a leg whip, where it's costing a significant amount of energy, a significant amount of air time. The verticality in the hips and the head is just off the chain. It's a delay in the cadence. You can't get a high cadence when you do it, right? And I think this is probably the most common, single most, like, beneficial thing that recreational or sub-elite runners can remove from their gait, okay? And what that looks like is when we're running, people shoot their foot so far in front of their knee to where their front leg is almost straight, okay? And not almost straight, it is straight. It is hyperextended, okay? And then they pull it back under it. So a couple things that's wrong with this. First of all, you have to get high enough off the ground to bring a straight leg underneath you, All right. So some people, I think a lot of times this happens because there's a run tall cue that people gave, where I'll explain why I don't think that's correct. The other thing, this takes a huge amount of airtime, which takes a huge amount of energy to produce upwards. Okay. This also puts most people that I see have lower leg injuries that are shooting a straight leg in front of them. Because what you're doing is we're now shooting a straight limb with no springs loaded or anything into the ground. And because no hamstring is primed or the quad is not primed, the hip is just pulling this sort of like pirate's peg into the ground. And then all that force translates into lower leg, Achilles, soleus, calf. All right. Specifically just ankle complex. And then we get injuries like that. And I think what people are trying to do is stay light on the ground like we used to feel as kids. Okay. Combined with the ego, I think the cue of run tall is incorrect. I think running tall from the upper body is the right way of thinking it, as in posture, but running tall from the lower body is not right. If we just take a look at this still picture in front of it, if everyone can see here, there's not one straight leg, and you can start it and stop it at any point. So Jay, just do this for me. Just start it for a second and stop it. Not one straight leg. Okay. That girl in the back there is almost on the ground, but she's still got maybe a 25 degree angle in her knee before she hits the ground. She's not even close. Do you see how, if we look at the middle girl that's straight close to the grass there, her foot is in front of her knee. Okay. That's not bad, because if you check out, she still has significant knee bend. And this is where it goes to running tall. Like I was always told as a sprinter, okay, I'm 5'11", I got to run like I'm 6 feet or run like I'm 6'2". So what happened then is I started flinging sort of these straighter limbs under my body that cause injury. But what we talk, just play this for a second, Jay, and I'll continue in a second. Okay, stop it right there. Okay, excellent. So like we said, there's not one straight leg there. What happens now is we have to keep our hips the same level, which means the head is the same level. There is no up and down, very slightly. There's very little up and down movement on the hips and the legs, because when you're landing from running, you're landing in essentially like a quarter lunge. All right, this is if we take this girl that's in sort of second from the back here, okay? That is a lunge position. The lunge position is a position that all runners should be very good at in terms of stability, walking lunge, reverse lunge, because the lunge position is the movement archetype of running. It is the shape of running, okay? When I see someone who's flicking their foot forward, one of the big cues, one of the big strength things that I work on is I say, you need to get better at a lunge position, because what it requires is hip and knee flexion on the ground. You can't push yourself out of it with your lower leg. You can't, you have to stabilize through the hips and the upper trunk. You have to be in a good posture. But what I'm trying to get them to be okay with is landing and controlling and producing force from a slightly more bent knee and hip in their inflection. So with a knee's inflection and a hip's inflection, what we're looking at is like, that is a lunge position right there. Any person you see right here is reminiscence of a lunge position. So when you see someone's foot in front of their knee, that doesn't mean that they've done a foot flick, okay? What a foot flick means to me, which is the delayed portion of this cue, which is they are completely deactivating their hamstring to pull back. Well, you can see here, with the bent knee, even if the foot is in front of the knee, first of all, to be in that position, you can't be as tall as you are. So let's say this girl, that girl in the middle there, let's say she's 5'9". She's running like she's 5'7" because she's landing with a bent knee, right? So it's not run tall. It's stay down to the ground in the lower legs, because remember, you're not trying to push upwards. You're trying to cycle your legs through so you absorb and release the ground back. It's not a musculature thing. It's a tendinous action. Okay, so you're not pushing, you're letting the body load up and recoil to behind you. Okay, so if we look at the girl in second, Kaylin Tui, look how far behind her hips her foot is coming off the ground. We're talking about, if we take the angle into account, if you talking about that's 2.5 feet probably behind her hips. She's only 5'5" or 5'6". She's got her foot pushing off 2.5 feet behind her. Nothing about that back leg angle says she's going up. That is all backwards. Okay, that doesn't happen if you start out with a straight leg. It just can't happen. So the foot flick and the straight leg in front of us, the number one for recreational athletes, you've got to have hamstring control, where you are okay with landing on the ground with a bent knee and not trying to pose in the air and look good and look springy by jumping up and flicking your front leg forward. The most time we see this is in sprinters. In the highest level sprinters do a foot flick. Foot flick is a standard sprinter nomenclature. It is often exaggerated, which causes a delay. You can't foot flick for the case of foot flicking. Foot flick is to create a whip, but the whip is done because you haven't deactivated anything, not because you're just flicking your foot forward and you hope a whip happens. Okay, you cannot lose hamstring control as the foot goes forward. It has to maintain tension in the hamstring, specifically bicep femoris, which is the outside portion of your hamstring. And if I tested 9 out of 10 people, talking about recreational runs, if you tested 9 out of 10, I bet you that in a lunge position, their hamstring is deactivated, because hamstring activation in knee flexion is something that's been lost on the majority of population just because of sedentary lifestyle, previous injury, whatever it is. Hamstring tension, and you can reach down, you can feel it. Hamstring tension in a lunge position, in any knee flexion, in a squat, is generally lost 9 out of 10 people. But if you can learn to have hamstring tension while your foot is in front of your knee, just like that, or under your knee preferably, that is a key to becoming a significantly more elite athlete. Absolutely. So I'll take some questions on that, and then we'll go.
All right. When working on activating that bicep femoris, how can we be sure we're activating it, or is there a cue for that?
Yeah. I'm going to take you guys with me for a second just to show you, okay? Your bicep femoris is this outside hamstring right here, okay? So there's a couple steps to this. Take the weight off your leg and see if you can create tension there. Maybe, maybe not, okay?
Hold on. Hey, Mitch, hang on one second. Let me get you so, okay, they should be able to see now.
Okay, take the weight off your leg and try and turn on this hamstring with no weight. Okay, so that's number one. This is the outside portion of the hamstring. Now we can go into a lunge, and you can see, like, and I'm trying to turn mine off, but like you can see, okay, if I go into a lunge here, okay, I can hold on the hamstring tension. I can go into it here. Generally about here, you'll lose hamstring tension. Now you're all on the quad. It's quad and hip right here. And that's, if I turn off, that's what it will look like. So you actually get down, and what you try to do is, if you flex this knee, you'll notice that everything comes on. Okay, now we're talking about having hamstring tension through the deepest of knee flexion. Now you can control a deadlift. Now you can control a squat. Now you can be better in lunge, because here's the big secret about the hamstring tension. Your knee is reliant on many muscles to stabilize, to produce force, to absorb force, all this stuff, okay? When you lose hamstring tension, you have cut your stabilization and your force production and your ability to be an elite athlete in that position. You've cut that in half, okay? If you don't have hamstring tension, bicep femoris tension with a flex in knee flexion, we see post-tib injuries, overuse injuries. We see, valgus knee, which is not bad. You can have valgus knee with hamstring tension. But the thought of having your knee in this position, it doesn't feel strong in this flex position. Well, yeah, of course, because you only have the quad holding on for dear life. You should be in this position, have these huge musculature, the backside of your knee, helping with the quad on top. So now you've got this like strong system with the knee at the end versus just, kind of having these just shearing forces go through just quad, patella tendon, quad tendon, down into post-tib, all that stuff, versus having the actual control of those hamstrings engaging and allowing you to do way more. As soon as you can lunge and be in have hamstring tension, you'll notice that you control stability, explosiveness, everything goes up. I'm not talking about 2%. I'm talking about like 15, 20% here. Now, all of a sudden, you can jump and land in a lunge position. You're not worried about your knee buckling or exploding because you have this entire system supporting the knee, not just one muscle the only muscle that stays on just because we've been sitting for, at this point, 50, 60 years. So it's like what we need to do is like focus. Can we gain that hamstring tension? And then can we learn to utilize that when we're skipping? It all comes back to skipping. It's the best, easiest way to do it. Can we utilize that in lunges? Can we utilize that when we're skipping? And what you'll realize is even when you're jumping or pushing off, whether it's forward, back, straight, whatever it is, the hamstring is a huge percent of the driver. When you can lengthen your hamstring with force, not just pull it and contract it with force, if you can keep tension through the lengthening process, it is a mark of an elite athlete, and it will change the way you move completely. So I hope that answers that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I do want to end pretty much on time. We have just a couple minutes left. I want to tell you guys, hey, if you want more help running form wise, we do a running form analysis. Mitch does that. That's available for any run free athletes or non-run free athletes. We have both setups there on the website. Other couple quick things. If anyone's not getting coaching, you can shoot me an email if you want to talk about getting some coaching or fill out a free consult on our website. My email is j@runfreetraining.com. And also we've got a couple camps. One's for youth, one's for adults. The adult camp is June 19th through 24th in Flagstaff. And Mitch is going to be there. We'll do some hands-on stuff. And yeah, guys, we're excited to help y'all out any way we can. That's really the passion and drive of Run Free, was created to address form, core, mobility, nutrition, sleep, rest, the mental game, training. We really want to address the whole athlete, because the other thing too is, hey, maybe your ability to activate some of these things could be better if you got better sleep, and maybe some of your nutrition is off, and like all of these things play together. So we want to serve you guys the best we can.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate everyone's time and everyone's trust for letting me chat on this topic. Anyone who needs a gait analysis, please reach out to me. If you have aches and pains or injuries that's been holding you back from running or running as much as you want, please reach out to me. This is all linked. All of my athletes have mobility, soft tissue, strength, gait analysis on the daily to make sure that there's a comprehensive practice that they're putting into practice to get that, whether it's they can't run, they feel too fragile or injured to run. I will get you running. If you can't run more than 10 miles a week without breaking, I will get you there. It just takes the right techniques. It takes the right eye for gait. And yeah, so if anyone needs any help, please reach out.
All right, guys, we want to respect everybody's time. Hey, this is recorded and it will be uploaded on YouTube and sent out via email as well if you want to send it to someone. But 12:46, we hope everybody has an awesome day. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, guys.